Okay, welcome everyone. We're glad to have you here today. This is one of our presentations, one of many that we do for our Wellness for Life program. I'm Carrie Cohen and I'm the Director of Rehab Services here at the hospital, but I'm also the Director of our Wellness program. And we have some amazing people who work in our hospital who are part of the Wellness Committee. And one of those today is our featured speaker, Melissa Francic, who is a registered dietitian here at the hospital. So a little bit about Melissa. She grew up in Walla Walla and went away to Texas to go to school. And she originally went to school to become a teacher. And she was a teacher with the Teachers of America, is that the Teach for America program. And after she did that for a few years, she became interested in nutrition and went back to school at Texas Women's University, and she got her master's in nutrition there. So for several years she worked at the VA hospital down in Houston and met her husband and came back to this area. Her husband is one of the McGreevy clan. So she came back up here. Everybody who's been here a while knows the McGreevy family. So she came home to her home roots in Walla Walla and Pullman, and we're very lucky to have her here. She's been here for several years now, has done a great job with educating folks within the hospital and on an outpatient basis. And she's going to talk to us today about minding the energy gap.
So although we do lose about 1/3 of that, there is this slow ratcheting upward of our weight, okay? And weight gain prevention, or preventing weight gain, is absolutely the most effective treatment. It's easier. Maintaining weight loss is very difficult, and we're going to explore some reasons why that is. But essentially, when our body has gained weight, our body has evolved to protect against losing it, even if that weight is unhealthy. We have changes that are metabolic. We have physiological changes where we have hormones working against us, or we have psychological and mental changes that make it very difficult to maintain that over time. So in order to understand the challenges and the differences between weight gain prevention and maintaining weight loss, we have to look at a concept called the energy gap. The energy gap can be defined as a permanent diet and lifestyle change that is required to maintain or to prevent weight gain or to maintain weight loss. Essentially what this is it's a calorie deficit that we have to adhere to every single day for certain body weight outcomes. We're going to explore more why that is. But it's a deficit, a calorie deficit. Why are we here? Because small changes are easier to maintain than larger ones. If it's in bold, y'all, it's a takeaway point. Small is huge if we can maintain it over time, and we're going to see what that looks like. This energy gap that we're exploring today is much smaller before weight gain happens. As little as 100 calories a day of a deficit, whether that's eating less or moving more or a combination, is enough to prevent weight gain from happening in more than 90% of the population. That's really significant, and it's small, and we'll see how small. For about half of individuals, about half of the population, that energy gap is only 30 calories a day. That's not a lot, and we'll see what that looks like. Why are we here? The energy gap increases significantly after weight gain has occurred. Let's take a look at that. For someone who starts out at 220 pounds and they lose 10% of their body weight, so right around 20 pounds, that energy gap has doubled. So every single day, 200 calories are required to maintain that lower body weight. If they lose 15% of their body weight, which is about 30 pounds, very important and significant, they have to maintain about a 300 calorie deficit every single day. Otherwise, weight gain happens. They gain the weight back. And we'll look more into depth. But starting small, preventing it, is a lot smaller of an energy gap than having to maintain a lower body weight because of some of the challenges that we'll explore today. Why are we here? Well, we are here to discuss creating tiny habits. Ooh, that didn't work. Tiny habits which lead to lasting behavior change. So on this slide here, Dr. B.J. Fogg is a researcher in human behavior change from Stanford University. He has more than 20 years of research, and he has found that there are three key things that lead to lasting change in behavior. The first is having an epiphany, or an aha divine moment. But unfortunately, we can't choose if and when those come. But the other two things, we can. Making small changes to your environment that support your healthy habits. And the second one, taking baby steps. Small things that you can do over a long period of time and maintain become huge. And we'll look at that some more. So today, what's our roadmap? Let's figure out, why are we gaining weight? What's happening? Why is there this energy gap needed to prevent weight gain? How do we prevent weight gain? What actually works to mind the energy gap once we've lost weight? What do people who are successful, what are they doing? What is the role of physical activity in weight management? There's a lot of confusion about this, and I want to actually show you the data. We also want to expand what it means to be successful, because we often overlook the things we're doing well. Finally, we're going to end with exploring mindful eating. How do we apply this to the holidays? To enjoy our food more than we ever have, and to prevent weight gain that typically occurs. So if each and every one of you can leave with 1 to 2 very, very small baby steps of changing your environment or your lifestyle, this will be significantly successful, and it's worth all of our time. So let's roll. So this slide is from the CDC, and it's probably small in the back there, and I think this is a pointer. Oh, maybe not. Ah, very good. I didn't want to shut it off again. So what we can see is that over 2 decades, this slide shows individuals, the percentage of adults who have a body mass index of greater than or equal to 30, which is about 30 pounds of extra weight. Then when I use the term obesity, I'm talking about individuals who have a body mass index of greater than or equal to 30. Well, you can see that the CDC from 1990 to 2010 had to add 4 different colors, because the percentage of adults who had excess body weight has grown rapidly. Our genetic makeup has not evolved as rapidly as weight gain has occurred. So something else is going on. As a scientist whose name is G. Bray put it, genes have loaded the gun, but the environment has pulled the trigger for weight gain and obesity in our country. So genetic makeup accounts for about 30 to 40% of one's risk of gaining weight. But the 60% is the environment, which includes the lifestyle and the behavior. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Those tiny habits that we can do every day for the rest of our lives. And they're huge. They become huge. So let's explore some factors. Firstly, in our environment and our behavior. Whoa, that was really fast. That's interesting. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. Whoa. I'm giving you guys a teaser here. Okay. Portion distortion. Well, what's the bad deal about getting more for my money? Well, the bad deal is that we will eat more, a lot more than we need. We'll eat 20 to 30% more calories if we have a larger portion, regardless of our initial hunger. That's a huge environmental trigger. Also, fast-paced lifestyle. There's this, unfortunately, economically, most homes have both parents working, or there's one parent who's working and no one else is home. There's this phenomenon of 24-hour eating, where we have access to very palatable, high sugar, high fat, high calorie foods. And they're fun. They come with toys. So, and slides and things. So the problem with that is a lot of those foods are actually, they're perfect in terms of sugar, fat, and salt. They create what food scientists refer to as a bliss point, which actually overrides our natural hunger and fullness signals, and we eat more. Very interesting. Also, 1/3 of children eat fast food daily in our country. 1/5 of all meals are in a car. And the average adult spends less than 27 minutes per day in meal prep and related activities, which is, I want you just to notice, is less than 1 episode of Top Chef. But there's another factor that's equally important. Michael Pollan, who's a food anthropologist and journalist, has coined the phrase a national eating disorder. And what he's referring to is the confusion that we have about food here in this country, about what foods are good for us, are nourishing, how much we should eat, when we should eat, and that sort of thing. So we're looking to external places for those answers. An example of this is when you ask a group of French people from France, how do you know when your meal is done or when you're done eating? And they will say, when I'm no longer hungry, when I'm satisfied. They ask a group of individuals from Chicago the same question, and they said, when my food's gone, when my plate's done or clear. Very different. We eat for reasons other than hunger. We eat not to feel worse. We eat to feel better, or we eat not to feel at all, to numb. This leads to an unhealthy relationship where food has become what makes us good, what makes us bad, what makes us worthy or not, sinful or angelical. So we have this very interesting confusion with the food and feelings. And I recently came across a psychologist named Karen Koenig, and her name is at the bottom of this slide here. And it's called the Food and Feelings Workbook. And she explores why we have this food and feelings confusion. And it was just very mind-blowing for me that when we come into this world, we have food and feelings together for survival. Because as infants, we need food and we need to be held. We need to know that we're not alone and that we're loved. And those two things come together with our early feeding experiences. We're being held, we're being fed. But as adults, if we do not learn to separate food and feelings, if we never have an emotionally intelligent adult surrounding us and teaching us how to feel our feelings and express them healthfully, and then to recognize hunger and eat for hunger, we remain confused. And this is even perpetuated, even on TV advertisements. I was watching one for, I think it was chocolate chips, and it was bake yourself happy. And this child was upset. And the parent comes in, oh, let's have cookies, let's have ice cream. But they don't actually hold the child. Tell me what's really going on. I love you, which is what the child needs. Wow. Distracted dining is a whole other area. Wow. So if we're eating for reasons other than hunger, how will we know when we have had enough? We won't, will we? We'll be seeking. You will know you're distracted dining if you look down and you say, seriously, who ate my food? It happens. We pair eating with a lot of other activities. We don't just sit down and eat most of the time. We can talk, we can drink coffee, we can drive. Or we can sit down together but not pay attention to each other and surf the web or go on Facebook and update my status and like. So the issue with this is when we eat with distractions, we eat faster. We eat significantly more. We miss the food experience, as a patient of mine recently put it. And what that means is we're not satisfied. We don't register, we don't have a memory in our body or up here of what we've eaten. And so we're likely to eat up to twice as much during the next meal or snack if we eat with distraction. It's very significant. So what do we have to do about this? Well, first we have to be willing to slow down. We have to become aware of what's going on in order to make changes. So small things are big, and awareness is the first step to behavior change. That's another takeaway. We have to be willing to become aware. So today we're going to explore how to become aware and apply that during the holidays. So how to prevent weight gain? It's small. In more than 90% of the population, it only requires about 100 calories a day of an energy gap. That translates to about 2,500 steps is one way to look at it. Or if that's an issue, you can look at your diet and cut out 100 calories that way. About 15 minutes or so of walking or movement. For those that are here in the hospital, if you do 5 laps around, each lap around the inside of the hospital is about 500 steps. So 5 of those a day, bam, to prevent weight gain. Or if you like to go outside and bundle up, twice around the big loop outside is about 2,500 steps a day. Bam, done. So we can check that off. Let's go into specific strategies. Well, the first thing, remember, is we have to become aware. We do that by monitoring, by recording, paying attention. Let's monitor how much we're moving. Great way to do that is with a type of tracker, something objective where you can actually see. I have this pedometer, Omron. It's fantastic, and it was about $12 or $14. I purchased it online, and it's excellent. You can buy more expensive ones, whatever you will use, and they're equally accurate to measure steps and movement. Let's monitor our weight. Let's keep an eye on that at least weekly so that we can prevent having a larger energy gap to overcome. If we start early and catch it early, it's a smaller change that we need to make and maintain every single day. That's the key. We need to record what we're eating and drinking. Whether that's writing it down, it's so powerful. Whether it's using a phone app, there's some great things out there. But I'm going to caution you. Another bold point here. The awareness, building the awareness of our habits, not the accuracy, is actually key for behavior change. So when you're using your phone app, for example, it's a great tool to learn about how much calories different foods have in portion size. It's great. But we tend to underestimate or underreport how much we're eating by about 30%. Especially individuals who are overweight or have extra weight, they tend to underreport even more. So don't rely on the accuracy, but rely on the practice of building awareness. That's all that's needed. Additionally, portion control foods are excellent. These can be pre-packaged already, can be snacks, can be meals, calorie drinks, bars. My recommendation is whatever you will use, because remember, any change you make, small changes have to be maintained over time to work. So if you can do that, or you can make your own. Portion things out, pre-package them your own 100-calorie packed snacks, maybe of grapes or maybe of nuts or whatever you want to do. It's a great strategy, though, because the package size makes a difference. It's a trigger to remind us to stop eating. So you remember at the beginning here we talked about tiny habits. And we talked about tiny habits in the ways of taking those baby steps that we can maintain, and also changing our environment so that it supports our healthy habits. So which is easier to change, your environment or your mind? We make over 200 eating decisions every single day, and often some of those are mindless. They're affected by what's in our environment. It often triggers us to overeat, as we have seen. Willpower, short-term success. It's not enough for 19 out of 20 people to rely on willpower when you're surrounded by an environment that's not supportive of you. I replace it with the term skill power, which are small intentional changes that you are making that you can maintain and will support you, even on those long, stressful days, or if something's happened and you're just not really fully present. What's around you will improve your eating choices. So this book, Slim by Design, is a really interesting tool that was created by the author, Dr. Brian Wansink. And he is a professor out of Cornell. And he's the gentleman who worked with the team on the mindless eating studies. What makes us eat more than we think? So this is the answer to some of that. These are research-based small changes that make us eat better without having to even think about it. And so he and his team went into hundreds and hundreds of homes. And they just looked at the way the home or the food, the kitchen area and so on was laid out, and then correlated that with how much individuals in that home, how much they weighed, their body mass index, and they controlled for other things so they could make some associations. So we'll talk about that here on the next slide. But an example of this was applied to a Chinese buffet. Okay, guys, so I know you have these beliefs about buffets, but they don't actually want to make us gain weight. Their goal is actually to make money, right? So if they can save money in food costs and we eat less, that's a win-win, isn't it? So I'm going to give you an example. P.F. Chang's, which is a chain that has around 63 restaurants, they hired this team to go in and observe what slim diners versus overweight diners did in a buffet in order to see if they could save money in food costs by redesigning their restaurants. And they did. They saved almost $600,000 a year across their 63 chains. What they noticed, for example, that slim diners tended to take a look, and they walked around. They did an entire loop before picking up a plate. And then they were selective with what they actually wanted. Whereas overweight diners picked up the plate and started serving. They also noticed that slim diners tended to sit farther away from the food. And they tended to face away from the food. Whereas overweight diners sat closer and faced the food. They also found that slim diners tended to use chopsticks and drink water, whereas overweight diners, forks and spoons, and they had a calorie-containing drink. They also found that slim diners use booths rather than tables. Booths are more difficult to get up than tables to get up and get more food. So there's all these changes that they implemented. Very interesting that psychologically, mindlessly help us to make better choices. And they switched their plate size to a smaller plate. And they put a screen to separate where people sit and where the food is so no one can see it. They did a lot of changes like that, and it made a big difference. So let's apply this to our home now. A great thing to do when you get home today, look around you, maybe even in your office if you're going back to work, or is your environment supporting healthy eating choices for you or the habits that you want to maintain? If not, just like clearing out the closets, if you don't love it, if it doesn't bring you joy, it might be time to move things around and shake it up a bit. They found by visiting these individuals' homes that what we see, what's front and center, absolutely affects what and how much we choose to eat. So individuals who had just fruit or vegetables on their counter tended to weigh less. Cereal boxes, especially for women, if you had a cereal box anywhere visible in the kitchen, those individuals weighed significantly more. Diet or regular soda, visible, more. They found that individuals that had non-food clutter in their kitchen snacked twice as much as individuals who had to clear the counters. So getting rid of the clutter, even not the food clutter, will help us to eat better and snack less, according to his research. Out of sight, out of mind. This is a berry pie that was made by Daniel, who's back in the back corner over there, and it's delicious. But it was not out of sight, it was not out of mind. This is the second day of the pie. It's almost gone. This was not a good place for the pie. See, this is our vegetable and fruit. It's blocking our vegetables and fruit. And we covered it with a transparent wrapper so we could see it. Looking back, Daniel, I think to save this, it would have been better to cover it with tinfoil where we didn't see it and put it somewhere else. Or maybe pre-portion it into small, until we could pull out a single portion. We'd probably still be enjoying it. But So given that, open up what's front and center, because that's what you're going to grab at least 5 times more. Research shows us that. So organize your pantry where your healthier items are in front, or get rid of the other stuff. Fruits and vegetables, pull them out of the crisper, put them front and center. Put your other leftovers, maybe that are less healthy, wrap them in tinfoil, put them somewhere in the back. Out of sight, out of mind. Very powerful. I've given you all a home scorecard as one of your handouts as a place to start from this research. So why is weight loss maintenance so difficult? Why is it that less than 20%, maybe as little as 5% of people can actually maintain a lower weight after weight loss? I like to call this the honeymoon versus the marriage. Honeymoon's a blast. I'm losing weight, things feel great. I'll do whatever it takes to get into that dress for the cruise. But I don't want to do that the rest of my life. Are you kidding? That's what the difference is. The marriage, any changes we make to lose weight, we have to sustain those to mind that energy gap for the rest of our lives to keep the weight off. That's it. If we don't, it's not going to work. So I always explore this question with patients. What changes? You want to lose weight? Great. What changes can you live with now and live with the rest of your life? Happily, joyfully, and not feeling deprived or restricted, because those are the biggest triggers for overeating. Okay, die is the first 3 letters of diet. Dying is not a great way to begin living the rest of your life. This is very interesting, but more than 60% of people they go on post-dieting binges. Okay, that energy gap is going to be right filled up and weight gain going to happen. Even the thought of starting a diet in many people, you can predict it, triggers overeating. It's called the Last Supper mentality. That's what they call it in intuitive eating book that I have over here. I've got to eat now, otherwise. So we're going to start to tweak something because it's not actually true. Okay. Woo! She looks really aggressive, so let's go into this. Remember the energy gap? Larger weight loss means a larger gap to maintain every single day of the rest of the life, including the holidays. Weight loss plateau? Well, There's a very small decrease in our metabolism when we've lost significant weight, but it's not what we once thought. It's only about 5%. People used to think it was much higher. Mostly, it's due to not minding the energy gap, due to small, they call them dietary inadherences, where we eat just a little bit more and it kind of creeps and we fill up that gap. 1 to 2 days off of the diet is enough to fill the energy deficit. Very small, and that starts to cause weight regain. This is a diagram demonstrating an energy gap. So what we need to know is this individual weighed 215 pounds and lost down to 155 pounds, which is very significant weight loss, about 60 pounds. Their initial calories were around over 2,000, but at their new lower energy weight, they need 337 calories of a deficit, of an energy gap, every single day from what they were at baseline. That's a really big difference. That means they need to either eat 337 calories less, move 337 calories more, or do a combination to mind that energy gap. So the larger amounts of weight loss, the larger the gap, which is why preventing weight gain, it's a small amount to prevent weight gain. So gosh, this seems disheartening. What are we going to do? Well, what we have to recognize is that weight maintenance, weight loss maintenance, and weight maintenance is a lifelong journey. It requires lifelong support. This is for the rest of our lives. So some of the most successful people at this are people who actually show up. They show up for their dietitian appointments. They show up for their Healthy Steps Together program that we're doing at the hospital, which I have some people here. They show up. They have support groups. This is really important. The National Weight Control Registry provides us with an ongoing database with what actually works for people who are successful at losing weight and keeping it off. More than 10,000 people are part of this registry, and they've lost between 30 to 300 pounds, and they've kept it off for 1 to 66 years. So these folks know how to mind the energy gap. They know how to do it, and we're going to explore what they do. Most of them say that the weight maintenance phase is the most difficult. So what works for the marriage? How do we keep this love alive? Have fun with this. Most of them eat breakfast daily. Most of them monitor their weight at least weekly. Catch it small, catch it early. It's easier. It's a smaller gap. Smaller changes are required to get back on track. They record what they're eating and drinking somehow. They exercise an average of an hour a day. Mostly they walk, but there's other opportunities. They watch less than 10 hours of TV per week. This is available to you. If you go to online, you can search this website or National Weight Control Registry, and there's a list of their behaviors. That's pretty sweet. This is very important, not letting small slips turn into large weight regain. Life and change are not always moving in one direction. It's more like a dance, like a cha-cha, where we take a step forward, we take a step back. It's normal. Take that next step forward. The problem becomes if we get off and we think, oh gosh, I failed. I had one small cookie. Might as well eat the whole box, right? Not really. No, not right. It's okay. It's a matter of just becoming aware and mindful and then getting back on your dance, because that's what works. It takes a healthy mindset to be successful, which includes gratitude, mindfulness, rituals, social support, and not splurging on the holidays. Because the energy gap, unlike us, the energy gap does not go on vacation. So, to explore the role of physical activity, we need to understand what an energy balance is, okay? An energy balance is this relationship between the energy that I eat, the calories that I eat in, and the energy out, the calories that my body needs to stay alive, to digest, and to move, and to do other things. Let's explore the energy out piece, okay, that half of the equation. Well, what we can see is that most of it has to do with this chunk here that says base metabolism. That's the biggest part of that energy out equation. Digestion is about 10% of the pie. So ways that you can increase the thermic effect of food or digestion simply is by eating less processed foods. So eating more plant foods that have fiber and things that we have to chew and digest. Physical activity in the average person makes about 15 to 20%. Now, if an athlete, a highly competitive athlete, we're talking collegiate level or professional, that number only increases to 25 to 28%. So the takeaway from this is that the overall energy out is not affected very much by very high increases in physical activity. It's not a huge difference. So let's go a little further with this. I'm going to look to this study called the Drew study, which looked at postmenopausal obese women, and it prescribed them different levels of exercise. Okay? And what we found out was that at higher levels of exercise, they absolutely had improved fitness and they had improved quality of life measures. But they did not lose more weight. They actually lost less weight at the higher levels of physical activity. They lost less than we thought they would lose based on the calories that they should have expended, and less compared to the groups that had moderate activity levels. The reason for this was that they ate more. There was two ways that they ate more. Consciously, whereas these ladies, the high intensity group, they'd be on the treadmill, and researchers listened to them talking about going to Applebee's and I deserve this and all this workout. So there was that, and then there's the unconscious part where we actually eat more because we're hungrier. Our body triggers us to eat more at higher levels of intensity of activity. Also, be aware of calories burned, or net calories. If you're tracking your movement and your phone app tells you that you used X number of calories, or a machine at the gym tells you you burned this, don't rely on those numbers. They're not intended to estimate individual energy or individual calories burned. They're actually for research purposes, to compare the relative intensities of different types of physical activity, not for this. It's called the compendium of physical activities, and most apps and machines use that. It can overestimate calories by 20 to 30% or more. Just depends. So what is the role of exercise? Well, I think I should get a drum roll. This is a takeaway. To lose weight, calorie restriction is key. It's a lot easier way to manage that energy balance equation. Here's an example of that. 350 calorie mocha sounds pretty delicious right now. Nice hot, cold day out there. That's a lot easier to drink than to go out and walk briskly for an hour and a half. Right? It is. They're equal. I have nothing against mochas. I have no prejudice against those. But I have to know that they're equal. And mind that, because that's the way it is. So diet and physical activity are key for maintaining weight loss. In fact, physical activity is the #1 predictor of successful long-term weight loss maintenance. It helps in part to provide more flexibility with what we're eating. And if we can have more flexibility, that means less restriction. That means less feeling of deprivation. Long-term success is higher. There are some indirect benefits of exercise on weight. Here's a couple of them. We did mention that there is sort of a small decrease in that metabolism with weight loss, and it happens with aging. Physical activity can help offset that and equalize the playing field, to increase that big chunk of the pie, that base metabolism. That does decrease when we lose lean body mass. It may also help with our recognition of hunger and fullness cues. And people who are active tend to reach and crave healthier foods and drinks. It's not causation. I'm not saying this causes the thing, but there's an association. We see that often. So besides those indirect benefits, why exercise? Because regardless of how much we weigh, people who are active are healthier in every single way. Significantly lowers the risk of almost every chronic disease that we know of. If you want instant gratification, start moving. Immediately you feel better. Everything, blood sugar decreases, blood pressure improves, stress and mood. This is fantastic. Weight loss. Diet cannot do this, what exercise can do. Diet alone cannot offer the benefits that exercise can offer, and that's really important to know that. We don't have to wait for the weight to drop to feel better with exercise, and that's also exciting. It's fantastic for replacing stress eating. So when we're stressful, our body is in this stress soup. There's all this stuff floating through us, and we're reaching for what's going to calm that. Maybe that's high sugar, high fat foods. Well, exercise produces the same opioid response in the brain that reaching for those foods does. So, to try it and then see if that craving doesn't actually pass, because you're satisfying what your body actually needs, which is stress management, not food. So with all of these benefits, my question to you guys is, why not exercise? This is really exciting. Exercise preserves lean body mass that we lose when we lose weight. We don't just lose fat, we lose lean tissue. We also lose lean tissue with aging. Well, to give you an example, remember on our energy out, the biggest chunk of the pie was that base metabolism. That has to do with our amount of lean tissue that we have, in part. A pound of muscle uses 50 calories a day at rest. A pound of fat uses only 2 calories a day at rest. That's a huge difference if you think about that pie over time. So it's a great opportunity. And guys, it's so fun. She's having so much fun. So are they. So are they. So there's no wrong way to be active. The key is finding what you actually enjoy and will want to continue. You need to look forward to it. That's the piece. Feel the difference with exercise. So how much? General health improvement, it's about 30 minutes a day for 5 days a week of moderate intensity. Maybe that's brisk walking or dancing or whatever you enjoy, gardening. For weight loss or weight gain prevention, that number increases to about 45 minutes to an hour a day for those 5 days. Okay, but there's more ways to be active than formal exercise. Look at this. This is fun. He says, I use aerobics music for my ringtone. Every time I get a call, I get in an extra 15-second workout. Yay! Like Dr. Gahab, who loves to dance. It's doing things that you love to do and doing them throughout the day. Sit less, move more. And we call this, now it's very much documented in research, NEAT, which stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is moving more throughout the day. And I want to share a study with you that was done in 2005 that's very, very significant. They took a group of individuals that were, half of them had a normal body mass index, they were leaner, and the other half were obese, so they had a body mass index of just above 30. They were all self-proclaimed couch potatoes who did no formal exercise. They put devices to track their up and down movement and all of the side to side and so movements for 10 days on all of these individuals. They were half men and half women. And at the end of 10 days, they found that the leaner group of individuals moved an average of 2.5 hours more per day, whereas the obese individuals sat for 164 minutes more per day. That difference was 352 calories more energy out per day, which over a year would be 36.5 pounds of fat utilization or fat usage by moving more. So that's very significant. This is a great thing, finding ways to be more active throughout your day and making it as fun as possible, because we like to have fun. We don't want to stop playing games after we're children. We want to have fun. That's the best way. But it's good for us to protect against fat gain and weight gain. And also we're finding that people who have higher levels of NEAT throughout their day have healthier cells. Our body's more efficient with our lipids, cholesterol, and that sort of thing on a cellular level. This is still very early, so I can't tell you more than that, but it appears to be helpful for that. So you can see ways to increase NEAT. I've given you a handout on this because I think it's important as a tool to get you started. But you can see this woman, she has a little cyclometer under her desk. She has a yoga ball, and she has a desk that can go up and down. So those are simple ways. But here's a few that I like. Stand up when drinking water. Stand up if you get a phone call if you can. Can you walk? Can you take your meeting on the road? I have a patient now who receives his conference calls and he walks because he doesn't need to be at his desk for those. And then even just setting up a reminder somehow to move every 25 to 30 minutes. Great way to increase NEAT throughout the day. So I'd like to move into what it means to be successful. Okay, because success is about what's important to you. We miss the ways that we are successful. If we do something 90% of the time, we think we failed. But anywhere else, that would be considered an A. For in school, we get 90% right, it's an A. But on our diet or our movement plan, our goals, 90% we think we failed. Again, doesn't quite make sense. So let's redefine this. Definitely if you can lose 5 to 10% of your body weight, if you're overweight, and maintain that, that's very significant for your health, for preventing chronic disease. We don't need to be a biggest loser to be healthy. Just a small amount can do it. But since most people gain weight, just avoiding weight gain is a success. If you can maintain your weight through your adulthood, that's huge. Or through life transitions such as menopause and things like that are challenging, it's huge. If you have improved blood work, maybe your blood pressure is lower. Maybe your medication dosage, they're able to take you off some of those meds for blood sugar or blood pressure. That's humongous. Other measures, though, include a sense of well-being. You carry your body with more confidence. Your mood is better. You have more energy for those around you and for your loved ones. Your relationship to food is different. You don't use food for feelings anymore. Maybe you've learned to separate that and be more mindful. That's success, because that leads to long-term success. And maybe you're moving more. You're stronger. You're taking more steps. You know, I have a patient of mine who defines success. She said success for her is being able to get on an airplane, to sit in a seat, to have a regular-sized buckle, be able to buckle around her so she can fly out and meet her new baby grandchild that's on the way this spring. What better success could be than that? So let's explore mindful eating. This is where we're going to end today. Mindful eating and then applying this to holidays and how this can help us to prevent that typical weight gain without sacrificing any of the goodness, because that's what it's about. Well, mindful eating is an answer. It's an answer and a way to address that national eating disorder, that emotional eating, that distracted dining, all of that wrapped into this. It's an invitation to slow down and to become present. And as I told my Healthy Steps class when we started exploring mindful eating, guys, we're opening up the floodgates. It starts with your food, but it's going to permeate every area of your life where you become more present, more mindful, and more active in your own life. So I think that is happening. Maybe you have some nods in the back. So mindful eating is about loving what you eat, feeling good about what you're putting into your body, and enjoying the process of eating. It's a balance of nourishment and pleasure with eating, where instead of saying junk food, nobody I know, and I sure don't want to eat trash. I want to eat foods that are fun and playful. So having those play foods that you enjoy in your diet as part of a healthy diet is important. The goal with mindful eating is to feel better after eating in every way, physically better, but also emotionally better. You're not to feel those feelings that are uncomfortable. You want to feel good all the way through. It's eating with all of our senses. It's paying attention. And it's about enjoying the entire food experience. Like wine tasting, it's not about getting drunk. It's about being mindful, being present, and appreciating all that this has to offer. And I will share that a patient of mine brought in a food log. And she had eaten a piece of quiche. And she shared with me, this was a quiche she had eaten last week. She shared, Melissa, she says, a year ago, I would have told you that that quiche was good. But today, I can tell you, she went on to describe the quiche with all of her senses. She talked about this quiche for at least 3 or 4 minutes, this one slice of quiche. And she stopped at the end and she said, and I was satisfied with one small piece. And that had never happened before. That is the power of practicing mindful eating. That patient will never again look at quiche in the same way. Or any other food for that matter. Her whole relationship and perception of food has changed. So, gosh, how do we begin this? Well, a great way to begin is to create a moment of pause before we eat. We have to be willing to slow down and check in. Am I hungry is a great place to start. Why am I eating? Am I hungry? Am I actually hungry for food? Or could it be something else? And if you're not sure, a tool that the book, the Food and Feelings workbook offers is visualizing the food that you want to eat. You know, becoming quiet and still, picturing that food, and then actually using your hands to place, is it a heart hunger or is it a belly hunger? And wait, and see what happens. And if we find that it's an emotional hunger, what am I actually feeling? So there's some great ways to explore this. Or if it's a food hunger, what do I actually want to eat? Could I be thirsty? Okay, hunger and thirst, they are nosy neighbors. They get in each other's business all the time. So we could actually be thirsty when when we think we're hungry. So check in with that. Think about what you actually want. But if it's not, this is a powerful question. Will the food help? How will I feel in the short term? How will I feel in the long term? And what can I do instead? So how can I actually take care of that emotional hunger if that's what's going on? Or if I'm feeling stressed or tired or bored? So I work with my patients on creating lists, kind of like self-care lists or distractors, other activities we can do. We sometimes will put together music playlists. We call them our heart playlists, where they're music that bring us back and fulfill that hunger if it's not for food. Whatever means something to you. And if it is food, how hungry am I? Well, this is a tool I've included in your handouts. It's a way to reconnect with what it feels like to be hungry and what it feels like to be satisfied. It's a great place to start. You can use this with your food log. You can explore before eating, how hungry am I? Can I give it a number? And then after eating, where am I at on the hunger scale now? And start to learn. If we can learn to eat when we're gently hungry, as opposed to overly hungry, and stop when we're actually satisfied, we tend to feel better. We tend to not feel so full and tired, but actually feel better and more energized after eating, which is the goal of eating. 20% margins. So research shows us that people who serve 20% are given 20% more food or 20% less food, they don't notice. If you give them 50% more, especially 50% less, you bet they notice. But 20%, there's wiggle room. So we can use that to our advantage by playing with that margin and using the hunger scale with that and see if that really is enough. It might be. It might be less than we think we need to feel satisfied. Remember that the goal is always to feel better. It's not about being right or perfect. It's about noticing. It's about building awareness. Looking at, if you've overeaten, what triggered that? What led up to that? What can I learn? So it's not about not making mistakes. It's about not missing the lesson. And I love this expression, but the very moment that we realize that we have been unaware, mindless, in that moment we become mindful. It's always about that, coming back to the power of now, to this moment, and becoming mindful, and starting again. Here's my point, guys. Awareness. Awareness, awareness. Ooh. Ooh. Gosh, that was surprising. It's right next to my laser pointer here. Awareness is the first step to behavior change. And the only way we can become aware is if we are willing to slow down. Slow down. And here's what we can do. Before the first bite, pause. Check in. Check in with your hunger. Check in with your heart. How are you feeling? Are you stressed? Are you tired? What's going on? Offer gratitude. So you can think about, if you're eating a banana, I was thinking about it the other day, I started to smell it and look at the colors and picture banana trees in Costa Rica where I had been in college and think about where they came from and how it got to my plate. It's powerful. Gratitude for what's going on. And breathing. During the meal, pause and check in throughout the meal. Check in with your body, your mind, your heart. Am I hungry? What does my food actually taste like? What does this bite feel and taste like? It tastes different in different parts of the mouth. Kind of crazy. And this is important if I want to continue eating. Here's the deal. To use the hunger and fullness scale, in order for us to learn to stop eating when we are satisfied as opposed to full, uncomfortable, or stuffed, we have to give ourselves permission to eat again when we are hungry. We have to. That's the basis of building foundation of trust with food and of healing our relationship with food, is honoring our hunger and honoring when we're satisfied. Just seconds throughout your meal, before and throughout, can have a huge impact on the way you eat, the way you see food, and your lifelong habits. Small, but huge. So let's apply this to the holidays. Okay, just like her, surround yourself with healthy choices. Maybe no one can see. Can you see in the back? So make your environment that you're walking into be supportive of your healthy habits. Maybe that's talking ahead if it's a family member. Hey, what can we have on hand and how can we lay this out? Or maybe it's just bringing a dish that you know you want to eat. Just as those slim diners did, survey your options before. Focus on the special foods. Which foods are special to you during this season? And that might mean limiting alcohol and other drinks that won't be as satisfying as the food in order to mind that energy gap even during the holiday. Okay, chicken bones, let them stare at you. Keep the evidence. This is a cue to let us know how much we have eaten. Keep the wrappers, keep all of that so you know. If you can go, don't go overly hungry. Go when you're gently hungry. Try to have a balanced meal or snack before you go, or within a few hours before going. So check in. This is a really powerful one too. Reframing the purpose of the holiday. It's not to go and eat a bunch of food and feel awful. It's to connect with others. Make others the reason for the season. The gratitude, the connection, and food can be the side dish. Really interesting thing, but to think about going into this with a different mindset. It's creating a new association. It's creating a new association, and that's very powerful. Okay, this little baby, he was given sour yogurt, okay, and he actually decided he liked it. So just like this little baby, pretend that you're a gourmet food writer or a Food Network host. Go into the event with creativity, with curiosity instead of judgments. I don't actually know if I like this food. Let me find out. Let me set down my past memories of this food and what this food means and actually explore it one bite at a time with all of my senses. I might not even like it, or I might find out I do. Appreciate the setting. Check in with your hunger. What are you actually hungry for? Are you hungry for food? Or are you hungry to connect with beautiful people here in the second row? If I'm hungry to connect with them, let's move our conversation away from the food table instead of having to have the food there in order to make that connection. Let's know which hunger I'm satisfying. That, again, takes awareness. It takes the moment to pause. Decide how you want to feel before eating. Actually decide, thinking about your hunger scale, do I want to be stuffed? Or do I want to be energized, nourished, and able to enjoy the rest of my day? Make that decision before. That's mindfulness. So, gratitude. I can't even tell you enough about being grateful. People pray before meals. I pray after meals too. Just taking a moment and really thinking about that food. Your body's taking care of you. It's digesting that food. You don't have to think about it. It's doing the best that it can. And so there's just a moment to connect and be grateful. One bite at a time. Taste buds, they're not down here, guys. They're not in our stomachs. They're in our mouths. So there's no rush. There's no rush to get it down there. Plus, brain and gut, they have a relationship where they've agreed that they need about 20 minutes to communicate. So give yourself that time, or as much as you can, close to it. Enjoy the process, enjoy the experience, and keep checking in. Lastly, it's not now or never. You don't have to eat it now and then go on a diet tomorrow. There's no Last Supper happening here. It's just another meal, connecting with loved ones, with delicious food prepared with love. And so giving yourself permission to stop and then eating again when you are hungry, because food tastes the best and our body's able to use it the best when we're actually hungry. So in summary, we've explored a concept called the energy gap, which is a daily, every single day difference, either to prevent weight gain or to maintain a lower body weight. And that's a combination of diet, what we're eating, and also how much we're moving. There's a lot of ways to move, formal exercise, but also short bursts throughout the day. Preventing weight gain is easier. It's simpler and it's smaller than preventing weight gain after you've lost significant weight. Just 2,500 steps a day. 5 laps around the inner hospital, 2 laps around the outside is enough to prevent weight gain in more than 90% of the population. Or a combination of diet depending on what your body allows for you to do. What works? Tiny habits work. Small changes to the environment and small changes every day that are huge over time if we maintain them. Every type of movement counts. It's very significant. Something I wanted to share about this, since we have about a minute. There was a study that stuck with me from years ago, and they looked at working women, and they assigned these women for 40 minutes of walking a day. Half of the group, they had them walk at the end of the day after work. The other half, they had them split it up into 10-minute segments throughout the day. At the end of the study, they found that the group that walked the most was the women that had divided it up. Because if something were to happen midday, maybe a child got sick, or something happened at work and they needed to stay late, or who knows, they missed it. It was an all or nothing shot. But the women who accumulated it throughout the day, they gave themselves so many more ways to be successful. So all of it added up. So finding that to make your whole life more active is a much better deal in the end, and more success. Be active to improve your health, to feel good, not to lose weight or as penance for eating, because it doesn't work like that, and it's not motivating. If I'm doing penance, I don't think I'd be excited to look forward to doing it tomorrow. So finding what you enjoy, feel the difference. Be mindful with your activity. Express gratitude with your body, the way it's supporting you, the way your lungs are working, your heart is beating. All of that's happening without you having to think about it. It's really pretty amazing if we stop and notice. Choose things you enjoy and want to continue. I can't say that enough with your eating and your activity, because if we enjoy it, we're much more likely to continue. Finally, practicing mindful eating is a wonderful tool to replace habits of stressful eating, emotional eating, and distracted eating. This is a wonderful tool. A tool to prevent holiday weight gain without sacrificing the food or the enjoyment. I bet you may even enjoy your food more than ever before if you experiment with some of this and feel better afterwards. And very significantly, this transforms our relationship with food for the rest of our lives. If we have a healthy relationship with food, this leads to healthy eating choices for our lifetime. It's very significant, not the other way around. Starting with our relationship with food will lead us to choosing healthier foods. So references, and that's all I have, and I don't know.